talk about the indictment of James Comey and coming at it from a different perspective, more of kind of like a human perspective, and more importantly, what was the opinion of the Attorney General of the United States, Alberto Gonzales, on specifically a core question that we keep being too cowardly in this country to confront. And that is, what do convicted felons do in this country after they gain their conviction, and what their behaviors tend to be, what is kind of like a human behavior, and why the Attorney General under George W. Bush, Alberto Gonzales, held his opinion that convicted felons cannot hold office in Washington, D.C. The main reason, though this is not what they cited the legal definition, is actually, as you can see around me, is that legal opinion. Now, individuals who become convicted of felonies here in the United States, I'm going to take it from a perspective of a few friends of mine who were 18 years old and became convicted felons. I'm not. These are family members and a friend. Now, when you're 18 years old and you do the stupid thing, right? You do stupid things when you're 18 years old, and among these stupid things that you can do, some of them might get you convicted of a felony. Shoplifting, for example, or driving drunk. Stupid things that teenagers do. But now these people are a little older than me. I'm 56, they're 58. What happened to them was 40 years ago. And what they're having to live with is what it means to be a convicted felon. The problem is so you're dealing with this issue in your life. You've become successful, or maybe you're moderate, right? You're just doing well at almost 60 years old. So, what do people do who are convicted felons? They justify their actions. They try to get the conviction removed, or maybe they feel that, to get the conviction removed from my record, it costs thousands of dollars. I don't want to spend thousands of dollars to get rid of the record. And that's okay. But that's just how it's done, right? But when it comes to the issue of, like Trump, for example, a president, a person who actually possesses power. A person who has power who's a convicted felon wants to suppress the fact of what they did. They need to justify their behavior. They morally justify their behavior. They attempt to legally justify their behavior. Among these justifications can be, for example, I'm going to put you in jail. I'm going to put other people in jail because the process of becoming a convicted felon is unjust, and my conviction was unjust by an unjust system. And so once they have positions of power, they need to prove that the system itself is unjust and wrong, because that's part of the moral justification for their own conviction, because they're not bad people. Next, things that a person would also do is try to quash their conviction. For example, like if you have a position of power, like a person who is normally, an average person with a convicted felony in their history, they might apply for jobs and, not say that they're convicted felons. Because, it happened 40 years ago, and they just are like, it was a stupid thing. I was an 18-year-old kid. I did a stupid thing. I got drunk for the first or third time in my life, and I decided to drive home. Bad decision. these sorts of things. But if you have power, like the power of the presidency, you will destroy records. You will put pressure on attorneys generals. You will put pressure on people who have the power to prove that you were not necessarily the bad person, and maybe destroy the record of your conviction. These are the many reasons in which a convicted felon is not supposed to be president. When it came to Alberto Gonzalez, as you can see the information around me, right, was the 2006 DOJ memo, Collateral Consequences Upon Conviction. And it argued that though there is not a actual precedent stating that a convicted felon cannot hold public office, though the Constitution does not explicitly state that at the federal level that a convicted felon cannot hold public office, but so they came with their interpretations. Among them included the fact that in almost every state in the Union, literally in every state of the Union, different types of convicted felons are not allowed to hold elected offices, and literally they have convicted felons have won elections, but they aren't denied the office. And the reason why they're denied the office is because they're convicted felons. Same thing they believe should be at the federal level. But the main position wasn't just the laws, as you can see here and here, as you can see on these two sides of me, that there are specific laws that say you cannot hold public office because of the nature of the conviction. But they argued, what you can see beneath me, is the impeachment clause. The impeachment clause is explicitly clear. A person who is convicted of high crimes and misdemeanors cannot hold is to be removed. What that means is, at least in the legal opinion of Alberto Gonzalez, the man who literally wrote the torture memo, that a convicted felon would violate the impeachment clause instantaneously and therefore would be forced to be removed from public office. That is the position. The problem that we are experiencing in our country is we have to live with this reality. And we shouldn't have to live with this reality. Trump's defenders are just no different than family members defending the convictions of their fellow family members or their friends who did the stupid things when they were 18. The only problem is when Trump did his stupid thing, he was running a company for decades and violating tax law, among others. Which, by the way, is one of the laws that they identified, that you should not be able to hold public office because you're untrustworthy. But it's not just that you're untrustworthy. It's the fact that you are in violation of the impeachment clause of the Constitution, and you're supposed to be, and the very fact that you have been elected means that you're supposed to be impeached that day. At least under a strict interpretation of the Constitution. So that's basically what's happening. People shouldn't be too harsh necessarily with MAGA types who keep looking over, Trump's conviction. Because if you've had friends or family members who 40 years ago committed a felony, a stupid thing, did the stupid thing, drunk driving or whatever, first time they were drunk and they had a driver's license, but they didn't understand the definition of, that maybe they felt a slight buzz, but they didn't understand that driving while buzzed is drunk driving. And so they did the stupid thing. So they're willing to excuse Trump because there are lots of people in this country who have felony convictions. And those people that have felony convictions are not exactly bad people. They just did the stupid thing. They just did the stupid mistake. So yeah, we need, and so then when it comes to like what James Comey is doing is exactly what people who know that the law is on their side. He is demanding an immediate trial. One, because basic legal procedures have been violated, so he wants to just get this over with. That there are simple legal procedures that he will be able to argue on and have the case destroyed, possibly. He also does not believe that the evidence merits it, so there's a lot of things that are protecting him. And so he's like, yeah, and tells the Department of Justice, you have 30 days to present your case. Let's go. And if he can do it faster, he'll do it faster. He'll say, speedy trial in the United States. Let's go. So that's basically where we're at. And the danger of where we are at is in many ways a danger of our own creation. We are here because we're not following the Constitution. Literally, the opinion of Alberto Gonzalez, the man who wrote the torture memo, said collateral consequences upon conviction. That when you're convicted, you're in violation of the impeachment clause, and therefore you should be removed. And these other laws that you see over here and over here is why. These laws is why, quite frankly, he shouldn't be president. And he never should have been president. And the Republican Party should have realized that from day one, and they should realize it now. Because the honest truth is, no one is safe. And the reason why no one is safe is because Trump is not just doing this for partisan reasons. He is doing this for human reasons. He is doing this because he needs to justify personally that he is not a bad person. He is not a convicted felon. And that even in how we perceive convicted felons as being bad people, he has to prove he's not that. And there's your problem. Since he needs to prove that, he puts himself in this position where he needs to take actions to justify himself. And there are actions that individuals take who are not the president of the United States that Trump is doing, and he is doing them because he is the president of the United States with a convicted felony on his record. And that's our problem. We shouldn't be going into the stuff. It's just the human experience of what it means to have a convicted felony in the United States. And that's simply how Trump is behaving. It is unconstitutional, it is illegal, and it is wrong, because when you allow convicted felons to hold offices as high as the president of the United States, you will get this and worse. And when I mean worse, I mean just like the convicted felons that are out there in history. These are the things that will happen. When real dangerous convicted felons realize that there is a get out of jail free card by becoming president, then they will run for president. And those are the people who won't care who they kill in order to be president. Because the presidency is a get out of jail free card. And hopefully one day America will wake up pretty soon that convicted felons can't be president. They can't hold public office. Because Trump is not just a crazy man being the president. It's that there are real convicted felons out there who truly believe the law doesn't apply to them. And they demonstrate that by killing countless people. Those people are looking at the White House as the get out of jail free card. So we need lawyers who are prepared to step up and say that Alberto Gonzalez was right, that convicted felons upon conviction are not supposed to hold public office, that you violate the Constitution literally on day one, that we have been living in violation of the impeachment clause of the United States. We have been living in violation of the Constitution literally from the day our country and our legal system allowed a convicted felon to be sworn in as President of the United States, or any office at the executive level, or any office, really, in Washington, D.C., that if you're a convicted felon, you shouldn't be able to hold public office because the impeachment clause says you're supposed to be removed. That doesn't mean that you can't clear your record like everyone else does. It takes a couple of grand to do. And if you got enough support to be able to run for public office, then you have people who will give you a couple of grand to clear your public record. And that's what you should do. Because saying that Trump cannot hold public office because he's a convicted felon doesn't necessarily mean he can't run for office. It just means that what he has to do is clear his public record. Once he clears his public record, which you are legally capable of doing, and there is a procedure to do that, and it only costs a couple of grand, go do that, and you're fine. Do not do that, and you can't hold public office. Good luck. Like, share, subscribe, and let's debate the principles of whether or not a person who is a convicted felon should be able to hold public office, because we're witnessing exactly what a person who does that would act. Thank you. Let's talk.